All right, what is going on, everybody? Thank you very much for tuning in. What is it? What are we at? 10:20 right now. I appreciate you guys being a part of the show, the post game show. Lakers handle business, not exactly as planned, but Lakers over the Pelicans, 110 to 101, the final score. Appreciate everybody being here. If you're on YouTube, thank you very much for coming on here. We got a few more platforms that we're using tonight. So welcome in anybody from AM 570 on Facebook, on YouTube, and on X. So working obviously with iHeart and AM 570 a little bit. So we're using a few different social platforms. Appreciate you all being here. And then, of course, my YouTube. Lakers over the Pelicans, 110 and 101. We got a lot to get into tonight. I think some games, if you looked at the schedule and you just saw that it was Lakers and the Pelicans, you probably thought to yourself, maybe not that many storylines tonight. No, I thought tonight was a very interesting game. Obviously, could have been a lot worse if the Lakers didn't figure out how to come back late in the fourth quarter. But I'm going to give them some credit. I think the Lakers deserve some credit tonight. And I say that because that Pelicans team, their record does not represent their talent. They got talent. I mean, the problem with the Pelicans, they're always injured, but they weren't injured tonight. I mean, they had a good handful of their players, and you kind of felt like tonight might be a little bit of a dogfight. And the way the Pelicans obviously stuck around in this game, they definitely made it a dogfight. We'll talk about individual players, talk about some of these role players. I cannot continue to emphasize how important guys like Jackson Hayes were tonight, Luke Kennard, Jake LaRavia, Marcus Smart. I mean, a lot of guys stepped up that maybe we don't always talk about or aren't, obviously considered the big time players. I thought JJ Redick said some interesting stuff in the post game show that we'll get into as well. That this game, so they haven't had a win like this since November, where they fell behind and actually came back, put their foot down towards the end, and played a good brand of basketball for the last handful of minutes. They closed the game out on a 24-7 run. So we got a lot to get into. Thank you very much for being here. If you got some comments here, feel free to put them on the side or feel free to put them in the chat. I'll do my best to get to them. And like I said, welcoming as many platforms as we got on here tonight, wherever you're tuning in from. I greatly appreciate it. All right. So let's start with this. Let's just kind of give our overall thoughts on the game and go from there. I don't know if you guys remember before that Phoenix game, I had mentioned that they had a 4-game stretch here that they just had to take advantage of, period. There was nothing else to talk about. You had to win 4 games in a row. And it obviously started with the loss to the Phoenix Suns. It was awful. It was terrible. Everybody was kind of questioning the Lakers. I haven't heard JJ Redick. I don't remember when it was. Might have even been pregame tonight. He had said something like, we lose 3 games in a row and the sky is falling. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you, JJ. That loss to the Phoenix Suns deserved to be the sky falling. And what the Lakers had to do, and the only way they could respond, was win 3 games that they're supposed to win. Of course, you have to beat the Golden State Warriors because of the circumstances, because Steph Curry's out, Jimmy Butler's gone for the season, Kristaps Porzingis was dealing with an illness. So you got to take advantage of that. They did. And they had moments of that game, stretches where they were up 30. You play one of the worst teams in the NBA at home in the Sacramento Kings. You got to take advantage of that. Lakers did. And at one point, I know in that game as well, they were up 30. And then this one I thought was going to be a little bit interesting because the Pelicans, again, you're supposed to win. And I'm not going to sit here and try to, say that the Lakers just beat the Denver Nuggets or the Houston Rockets or the Minnesota Timberwolves or the San Antonio Spurs or the Oklahoma City Thunder, because they didn't do any of that. But here's what they did do tonight. They took on a talented Pelicans team that clearly were up and ready to go against the Los Angeles Lakers, and they beat them. Nobody's going to remember this day. Maybe you'll remember that they closed the game out on a 24-7 run, but they did beat them. They did take care of business, and that was 3 wins in a row after that awful loss to the Phoenix Suns. That part I'm going to give them credit for. Where I think things can get interesting in this game, I think certain players are making a case for themselves both ways. Some guys are making a case, you just can't depend on me. And some guys are making a case, look, when you need energy, when you need toughness, when you need somebody to roll up their sleeves and play hard, there's some guys that the Lakers can go to And I think there was a little bit more clarity again against the Pelicans, not a playoff team. The Pelicans do just have 19 wins, but listen, Trey Murphy the third that's a talented player. Zion obviously is a talented player. It's not that they don't have DeJounte Murray is a talented player. They got guys. It's not that the Pelicans don't have guys, but of course the Lakers were supposed to win this game and they've eventually won this game. I think a couple things that, stick out to me, and I'll go back to what I said, and I heard them saying it on the broadcast. James Worthy, Danny Green postgame. By the way, James Worthy said something interesting about Austin Reaves, which we'll get a second to get into as well, in regards to him potentially coming off the bench. I think he misunderstood what Danny Green was trying to say, but I think what he said is something I've made a case for, that it might just make more sense to bring Austin Reaves off the bench, but we'll come back to that. But one of the things I just want people to keep in mind, a couple of these Laker players off the bench, I think is why the Lakers won this game. Plus, you could say what Marcus Smart was able to do. Let me just kind of point out a couple of players. Luke Kennard, a plus 16 in the plus minus. Jackson Hayes, a plus 16 in the plus minus. By the way, Jackson Hayes, 8 points, 6 rebounds, also had a couple of block shots. Luke Kennard only took 5 shots, was 3 of 5 from the field. I know a lot of people hope he takes more shots, but teams are obviously playing him as best as they can because they know he's going to take shots, or they know what a lethal shooter he is. But every time the guy gets a look, he's typically hitting his jumper. And then I thought Jake LaRavia, which I guarantee you it does not look like it on the box score. Just really good energy minutes, good defensive stops. They had moments where they played really good defense and they gave up 101 points, so that has a lot to do with it. And then they had moments where there just was no energy or no effort, and I'll get into some of the individual quarters. But I thought those 3 players off the bench, and then I thought Marcus Smart, who, yes, had a big shot to hit a 3, yes, was only 3 and 9 from the field. The guy had 4 steals, 3 block shots, and 7 assists, and just kind of sets a standard when he can, not all the time. I think a lot of times for Marcus Smart, you never question his defense. You never question his hustle. What you're going to question is, are you taking the right shot? Are you not taking the right shot? Are you taking too many threes? Are you not taking too many threes? So I think those 4 players stand out to me. I didn't mention the stars. We'll get into in just a second. I didn't mention some of the other players that played in this game, like Rui, like Ayton. I didn't mention any of these guys, but honestly, I think there was a reason why I didn't. But I thought overall for the Lakers, and by the way, Ayton wasn't awful tonight, so I don't want to put Ayton in the same category as Rui because they certainly were not. But I thought those handful of players just they had a good energy to them that had a big reason of why the Lakers ended up winning this game. They also won this game because they dropped 34 in the fourth quarter, and they hold New Orleans to just 23. They also won this game, if I'm being completely honest with you. I thought the Pelicans weren't smart at all towards the end of the game. The Pelicans decided to kind of keep running the same play that wasn't working. Jackson Hayes is a decent defender, and Zion is an undersized big in the sense that Jackson Hayes is obviously his length, his height. I mean, he's going to make Zion's life a little bit more difficult. They kept going back to the same play. They all of a sudden started going ISO when I thought they were a lot more dangerous when that ball was moving around and other guys were getting an opportunity to try to score. So the Lakers won this game for a couple of the guys that I mentioned, the late run, the 24/7 run that they had to close out the game. And then I also thought the Pelicans I didn't think there was high IQ there towards the end of the game in regards to what they were doing. But however you try to slice and dice it, Lakers get the W. I can also sit here and be critical about the Lakers. When they commit turnovers, my God, I have no idea what they're doing. Let me see individuals, what the turnovers look like. But I'm looking right here at the box score. Team stats, they had 22 turnovers. Can you imagine if the Lakers had 22 turnovers against the San Antonio Spurs? They'd have lost by 30. Can you imagine if they had 22 turnovers against the Detroit Pistons, 22 turnovers against the Boston Celtics, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Houston Rockets? You're getting your ass kicked. And what's crazy about it, the turnovers are so nonchalant, like, yeah, no problem. I mean, between Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reaves, they had 17 of their 22 turnovers. So listen, I hopefully I gave the Lakers some credit and will continue to do so. Like I said, they needed to win 3 wins in a row. But my God, how careless this team can be sometimes with the ball. And the Pelicans were no better. I think they had 19 turnovers, and they had a lot of turnovers towards the end of the game. A lot of plays where you're actually kind of questioning, like, what exactly are they doing? 22 turnovers for the Lakers. This is the one piece of the turnovers that I will say. They didn't have a turnover in the fourth quarter until late in the game, where basically they didn't take a shot for the shot clock because the game was already decided. Kind of like the respectful thing to do when you're about to win a game, and the Lakers took the turnover. Um, that's a piece of their game that I know I know everybody that's on here. Listen, if you're tuning into a post game show on Tuesday, March 3rd at 10:30 at night on the West Coast, and if you're in a different part of the country, obviously a lot later, you know basketball. And I don't have to tell you that turnovers are the recipe to losing any game. And that's going to be an area, obviously the Lakers are going to have to be a lot better in, but the 22 turnovers and just the stars. LeBron, some of his passes, I'm like, who are you passing it to? Luka, I'm like, brother, you're too important of a player to be giving up the ball and the possession as often as you do. And then Austin Reaves with 5 turnovers as well. So sloppy game, but there were also points in sometimes it's kind of black or white, right? It's like they won all the good things. They lost. The world's about to end. Tonight there was a little bit of balance, and of course you outweigh things because of the W, but there's some areas of their game as well. I don't even have to let's put it this way. They've set themselves up for a really interesting matchup coming up on Thursday against Denver. And I think whoever wins that game, if Lakers win that game, I think they'll move in front of the Denver Nuggets in the standings. Now, we got a long way to go. We obviously got a couple days until that happens, so we'll hit on that when we need to. And then I'll preview a little bit of the game before we get out of here tonight. But that's just, you can't be Luka, you can't be Austin Reaves, you can't be LeBron James and be that careless with the ball. That's obviously a killer. I don't have to tell any of you guys. In the NFL, if you lose the turnover battle, you usually lose the game. In baseball, you got 2 or 3 errors, you're probably losing the game. That's just kind of how it works. And in the NBA, you got 22 turnovers. You're not supposed to win the game. And the only reason why the Lakers won the game, give them some credit, that surge there at the end where they really started locking down on the defensive side and got some buckets, finally got a little bit momentum. They closed it out 24-7. They put up 34 points in the fourth quarter, and Lakers get the W. All right, let's take a little bit of time here to start looking at some of the comments. At least we can get kind of an idea of how people feel about the game. I'm going to mention this again. I mentioned a little bit earlier. If you're on Facebook and you're watching, if you're on Instagram, you're watching, or actually Instagram, we're not on today. We'll start Instagram tomorrow. We'll use AM 570 with some of their YouTube socials as well. But wherever you are, you're more than welcome to be a part of the show. And hopefully we can get everybody's thoughts on this game tonight. All right, let's see a couple in here. Let's get a couple thoughts here. Rui been doing cardio from these past few games. Yeah, Rui, let me wait on Rui. Let me wait on Rui because I want to spend a little bit more time on Rui. Francis, I'm going to come back to this because I think Rui deserves a longer conversation. And you're right. A little bit of cardio for Rui, a little bit of sipping on some Gatorade. Really good seats. He's got really good seats right now. All right, let's get a couple more in here. Savage. Number 1, Savage, thank you. Very, very kind of you. Thank you for the super. I greatly, greatly appreciate that. Thank you for throwing that in there. I'm going to say this before things get nasty. AR was bad today, but I don't think it will stay like that. He made up for offense and defense. He came up in the fourth when he needed it. Rather him be bad today and smoke Denver on Thursday. All right, well, why don't we do this? Because I'm sure Austin Reaves, I haven't even got a chance to look at the comments. This is the first time that I've got a chance to look at them. And I'm sure Austin Reaves is going to be, obviously a focus and a conversation. They said something today that I really liked. They said it during the broadcast because it's exactly what they should have said in regards to Austin Reaves' play. Trudell was saying, I think at the end of the first half, so they're getting ready to start the second half. Mike Trudell was saying, you know, Austin Reaves only had 2 points, but it's Austin Reaves. The guy's going to get cooking. And I thought Billy Mack saying, you know, he has struggled here. He said 8 of the last 9 games, he has not scored over 20 points. And I thought that was important to point out because I don't think we could just say it's 1 or 2 games with Austin Reaves where he's you know, where it hasn't happened. I don't think we could say for Austin Reaves, well, he's just on a hot streak or a cold streak. I think Austin Reaves just clearly doesn't look like the same player as he looked like when the season started and what he was able to do before the injury versus post the injury. Since he's come back, he's not the same player. And I've heard James Worthy say this. I said this, I think it was yesterday, and I said it this morning. They're not winning one round in the playoffs if Austin Reaves is not effective. They're not. The only way the Lakers are able to make any noise the rest of the season and in the playoffs is if Austin Reaves is a closer version to what he was earlier in the season. Post game, I wrote this down in my notes here. I'm a note taker. You know, I hear something, I write it down. Danny Green was trying to make the point, and I'm going to try to let me tell the quick story here of how it happened, and then we'll get in Austin Reaves. And Austin Reaves, by the way, was better in the second half, hit a couple of big shots, but the guy is definitely not in rhythm. He's not in rhythm. So let's not pretend. He had a good fourth quarter, certainly a better second half, but he's had a couple games now where he did nothing in the first half and then had to really turn it on in the second half just to get his stats up there. And good thing for him is he did get some stops. He did get some steals. He was effective on the defensive side, certainly late in that game, and then he was able to get some of the buckets like he did. But Danny Green was trying to make the argument. He was saying that he thinks Austin Reaves, they got to find ways for him to be playing more with the guys in the second unit. He could be the head of that, you know, the head of the snake in the second unit, and he could really go back to being himself and stop overthinking things because Austin Reaves right now he's clearly taking a backseat to Luka and taking a backseat to LeBron. Well, he could try to do that because he's Mr. Nice Guy and he's trying to do the right things, but at the end of the day, they need Austin Reaves to be the Austin Reaves that he was earlier in the season and the player that they're hoping to sign in the offseason. And it's going to be a multi-million-dollar deal. They need a better version of Austin Reaves. When Danny Green said that about playing with the second unit, James Worthy said, I agree. Danny, I think it's a good idea. Heck, Rui's coming off the bench. Maybe they should have Austin Reaves come off the bench. And then Danny Green kind of jumped in and said, I'm not exactly suggesting he comes off the bench. I'm just saying they got to stagger his minutes more so he's playing more with the second unit. Whichever one, to me, it doesn't matter. Whether I've made the argument that I do think he should come off the bench, and I do think that there will be more opportunities for him. He'll be more effective, and you could have Luke Kennard and Jake LaRavia and Austin Reaves and Jackson Hayes, and actually have some pretty decent players that are coming off the bench if you want to throw Vando into that mix. And I don't know who starts in place of Austin Reaves. Probably Rui Hachimura, I'm assuming there. But anyways, we'll just leave that for another day. Just the conversation of probably got to use Austin Reaves different than the way they're using him. I do agree with that. So, Savage, to go with this comment, thank you again for the 20 spot. But I think you are right about you do feel like he will play better. They don't have a choice for him. This isn't a Jake LaRavia situation where it's like, whatever you can get from him. It's not a, I don't know, give me another player on this team, a Vando situation. Austin Reaves is a key piece to the Lakers. If they're going to have success, he's got to be great. He's got to be much better than he has been. Let me actually get you his stats tonight. What did he end up with? Because I thought he had moments defensively where he was definitely a lot better towards that game. 2 steals, 2 block shots. Give him all the credit there. 8 rebounds shows you it's a guy that's definitely the effort and the heart is in there. But he's struggling. 4 of 15 from the field. He did 15 shot attempts to get 15 points. Maybe he's not getting to the free throw line as much. Maybe he's not getting as many calls, but he's got to adjust. If that's how they're going to start calling it, then you certainly got to adjust to it. All right, let's take a look at a few more comments here. Let's get a couple more here as we keep rolling and go from there. The only way this works is if Reaves comes in off the bench for Luka. It doesn't here. Let me say this. It doesn't mean that you can't have Luka and Austin Reaves playing together. But what it means is they're not Austin Reaves can't be the best version of himself if he's only playing with Luka. I know they're trying to put Luka and Austin Reaves together at times. Today, JJ said before the game he was going to try Reaves and LeBron together at the same time. You know what I think would also happen? And I could actually go back to the previous comment here, the first one that I had from Francis. I think Rui is also not the player that he typically is because I think he's not in the starting lineup, which is hurting him because he got all these other guys that play make for him. And I think he's also coming off the bench. You could still have him come off the bench, but he needs a point guard. He needs somebody orchestrating things. He needs somebody setting him up. And right now, I don't think that's happened for Rui Hachimura. And you could tell he's struggling. How many points or how many buckets did Rui take today? How many shot attempts did he end up taking? Rui 0 for 4, 2 points. Rui sounds like my stat line. 0 for 4 with 2 points. Maybe that is cardio over these last handful of games. Maybe you're right about that. But either way, I think there's some interesting things. I just heard JJ Redick just said again. He said we're still Kobe Price, who's been on the show before, obviously a number of different times. He said he had said something. He asked the question of, do you feel like you're starting to become the team that you're envisioning? And I really was curious about JJ Redick's answer, because if he said yes, I'd have been like, brother, you cannot be determining heading in the right direction by beating the Golden State Warriors, the Sacramento Kings, and the Pelicans. Obviously, you can't do that. I like JJ Redick's answer. He said, no, not really. I still think we're a work in progress. And I think we're going to get there, but I still think we're a work in progress. I'll take that honesty. And I think they're still trying to figure out who goes where. How can we get Rui to be more effective? How can they get some of these other players to be effective? So, hopefully that obviously gives everybody a little bit of a background in regards to that. All right, let's keep going here. Let's keep going here. Now, I know we got a lot of people that want to chime in, and I definitely want to get everybody's opinion on here. The one thing that I want to do here for a quick second, I want to talk about some of the other players for the Lakers. I do want to talk about DeAndre Ayton as well. I want to talk about the technical fouls in this game, because let's just say there was a lot of technical fouls this game. And I also want to mention Luka, specifically where he is in regards to technical fouls. And let's just say he's getting a little bit closer to something that, it can't happen. And it's probably going to happen. Before I do so, let's give a shout out to Brad Wallace and the Walls firm. Brad texting me during the game. He's breaking it down. Brad's telling me, what is this team doing? How come DeAndre Ayton could be this? How come he could be this? What do you say? Something about how lack of impactful that he was, right? The point is that Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm, they're big Laker fans. He's a big Laker fan. At the game today, texting, reporting in. If anybody needs an injury attorney, I've said this to you guys, very loyal to the channel, cares about the channel, cares about the audience, wants to see this post-game show and the show that I'm doing in the morning. He wants to see the most amount of success. And my hope is as well that if anybody needs an injury attorney, they could turn to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. As he supports the channel, we could also support some of our partners. Injury attorneys that can help anybody in the state of California, serious injury, wrongful death case, you, a family member, a friend, he's got your back. Insurance companies always want to settle. But if they're in a situation or a predicament with Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm, they know they got a real fight on their hands, and that's what Brad Wallace does. WallaceWins.com/Sliwa is the website. WallaceWins.com/Sliwa. If you go to that website, free consultation. He'll help point you in the right direction. Him and his team will. All right, let's keep going here. So can I talk real quick on the technical fouls real quick? Because let me just say this on the technical fouls. So Lakers obviously handled the Pelicans tonight, 110-101. It was a weird game because something that I don't typically see referees warned both teams to basically shut the hell up. Okay? But they warned both teams to shut the hell up. And it was a little odd. But then the Lakers got a technical, and then I think it was Trey Murphy the third got a technical. I mean, they were still kind of getting teased. DeAndre Ayton ended up with a technical after that. I thought Stu Lance said it the best way during the broadcast. He's like, look, you don't have to like it, but if they're telling you not to do it, just don't do it. Just stop complaining. They want you to play. And they're clearly, it's like in a baseball game, if his strike zone is too high and you don't like it, but he keeps calling it consistently, then you kind of got to look at the ump and say, well, at least you're calling it for both sides and at least you're consistent on it. I think that's what the referees were trying to say today. Stop whining. And the Lakers, obviously have a tendency to whine. And the funny thing is, they stopped whining towards the last 6-7 minutes of the game. At least it felt like it. And they did go on a run, and their talent was there. And the glimmer of hope that the Lakers may have of making a potential playoff run, it shows in the 24/7 run. I get it. It's the Pelicans. I'm not trying to pretend like it's not, but it just shows you they got enough talent to where they could kind of turn a game around. I don't care about the technical fouls. It is what it is. I wish they weren't called as much. I wish there was more leniency, but it's fine. That's the NBA. But this is the one issue that the Lakers do have. Luka's got 15 technical fouls on the season, which means 2 more technical fouls, he's suspended for a game. What are the chances you think Luka's going to get 2 more technical fouls before the regular season comes to an end? I think there's a pretty good chance he's going to get 2 more technical fouls. I mean, I'd like to say that I'm wrong, but I've watched Luka Doncic now play every game for a year since he was traded from the Dallas Mavericks to the Lakers. Let's just say the guy likes to complain and obviously complain to referees. He actually had a moment that was very lucky, and the broadcast didn't mention it, but the sidelines of the Pelicans lost it. Late in the game, Luka turns to the referee. I think he slapped his hands looking directly at the referee. Guys, that's a technical foul if he didn't have a technical foul. But the fact that he had one, the referees were like, yeah, I'm not throwing him out of this game. At Crypto.com Arena in a close game, 3-4 minutes left to go. I'm not going to throw him out. It'll be interesting what happens with Luka with his technical fouls, because let me just play out a scenario for you guys. They got a couple key games coming up. They got the Nuggets coming up on Thursday, New York coming up on Sunday. They got a game against Minnesota, 2 against Houston. They play Denver again. They got a lot of really good games that are coming up. I'm excited to watch the Lakers against some of these good teams, and let's see what they can do. What if Luka gets a random technical foul against the Indiana Pacers and then another technical foul against the Knicks and he misses the Minnesota game? The problem that Luka has kind of created for himself is the narrative about Luka, especially if he misses a game that's an important game against Houston or Denver and Minnesota, any of these teams that I just mentioned, we're going to lay into him. I'm going to lay into him. I'm going to say that's selfish basketball from Luka Doncic. I'm going to say that he doesn't care about his teammates and everything else. So let's just hope that he doesn't get there. Or maybe not that he doesn't care about his teammates, but that it's just bad leadership. And you're not thinking big picture, and you're not thinking how that could affect your team. So tonight, there were a lot of technical fouls, but the only one I really cared about was, wait, how many is that for Luka? It's 15 for Luka. So he's got 2 left before he does get suspended for a game. I'm worried about that because it's going to be a bad look for him if that happens, and we'll see if he's able to. I don't know, guys. I mean, you got 20-plus games left to go. You got over a quarter of the season left to go, and you're telling me Luka's not going to get 2 more techs? I hope he doesn't. We'll see what happens. All right, let's take a look at some of the comments. We'll keep going here. Lucky techs don't carry to the playoffs. LeBron complaining all the effing time. Okay, what's the argument here? Help me with the argument. What does that have anything to do with Luka having 15 technicals? What does that have to do? Let me ask you this. Who's more important, Luka or LeBron? Right now, who's more important? It's not even close. Obviously, we know the answer to that. Luka's more important than LeBron. Luka's kind of everything to the Lakers. So What does Luka having 15 technical fouls have anything to do with LeBron complaining? What does that have to do with it? Is this just one of those things where somebody doesn't like that I'm being critical about Luka, so they have to run about needing to complain more about LeBron? It's nothing to do with it. Now this comment, if you wanted to say, he had 5 turnovers, 7 rebounds. They had 5 turnovers. If you want to make a complaint about something like that, hey, LeBron is, what is he doing with some of his passes? All that. Luka's got 15 techs. 17 you're suspended for a game. That's the point that I'm making. That has nothing to do with LeBron James. Nothing. I ran out of gas. LeBron's fault. The inflation, LeBron's fault. Let's get some more here. Easy game. Lakers have no defense or chemistry. Pat Riley would never coach this dumpster fire. None on this team could start for him when he coached the Lakers. Well, just a heads up here. He hasn't coached the Lakers since the 80s. So it's been a little while here. All right, let's get some more here. All right. If it happens, I'll bet $100 Luka gets suspended a game before the end of the season. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not really arguing that. I mean, you got over a quarter of the season left, and Luka's only got 2 more technical fouls. Can they use some techs? Can he use a couple from Luke Kennard that Luke Kennard hasn't used? Can he grab a couple from Jake LaRavia? Can he get it from a couple of these other players? All right, let's keep rolling here. One thing I've yet to do. Let me actually read this one. Lakers won't beat 5. I guess he's saying 5 teams. OKC, Spurs, Denver, Houston, Minnesota, because they're too slow and unathletic. OKC, Spurs versus Detroit in the finals. Listen. I don't have really an argument with this. My job is not to blow smoke up your ass. My job is to be as objective as I possibly can. Sometimes I'm able to do it great. Sometimes I might struggle with it. I might catch myself, trying to maybe paint a narrative that I want rather than what I'm seeing out there. OKC, Spurs, I think just leave those alone. I think Denver, we're going to kind of preview a little bit of that game coming up here when they take on Denver coming up on Thursday. I think everyone would pick Denver, but here's something I want to say about the Nuggets that I think is very important. They have to have Aaron Gordon. They have to. Aaron Gordon is such a critical piece to that team, period. He's a critical piece to that team. Probably one of the more underrated players in the NBA for how important he is to the Denver Nuggets. So does that mean that Denver still can't beat the Lakers without Aaron Gordon? No, they probably can. But with Aaron Gordon, that's a different story. I don't know how sold on Houston I am, if I'm being honest with you. They're all over the map. They're not consistent. They struggle on the offensive side. They don't have a quarterback. Now, listen, I get it. Houston also blew out the Lakers on Christmas. I think that's the game that Austin Reaves left. And the Minnesota, yeah, I don't think too many people are. Let's just say the Lakers wouldn't be favorites against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I don't think this is a crazy assessment here. The Lakers are obviously going to have trouble getting out of the first round, and they would be playing, either Denver or Houston or Minnesota. I don't think they'd be playing Phoenix, so I don't think that team would be in the mix here. All right, good comments here. I appreciate you guys sending all these comments. Thank you very much for doing that. Okay. Here's another thing. Here's another thing I would say. Oh my God, Lakers with Aaron Gordon. It's game over. Aaron Gordon's he's a nice player. Again, I'm not telling you he's a stud. I'm not telling you that he's an all-star. I'm not telling you he's a top 20 player in the NBA. But you know who he reminds me a little bit of? I'll tell you guys this. When I think this is probably the best comp that I can make, and it doesn't mean that this guy was the exact same player with that team. Do you remember when Andre Iguodala went from Philly to the Golden State Warriors? And it didn't seem like that sexy of a move. But I remember when it happened, I'm like, that's a really good pickup. And then, obviously it takes a second, the development of Steph Curry and this and that, everything else. when the Denver Nuggets traded for Aaron Gordon, it was like, that's a really good move. And then Aaron Gordon all of a sudden got to be this role player and not have to carry a team single-handedly like he was trying to do in Orlando, or Iguodala, not necessarily the face of the Philadelphia 76ers, but one of the faces. I think Aaron Gordon's I think he's an important piece. So that's kind of how I look at him. And anyways, I don't even remember. We were talking about how Aaron Gordon, he's got to be healthy. All right, you know what? This is a good transition to get into it, because the next game that the Lakers have, this is one of those games during the regular season. Now, I can't wait to see the Lakers start going up against some real teams, because as of right now, they said it on the broadcast today, it doesn't help when you just beat up on the bad teams. The big question is going to be, when you go up against not just playoff teams, but teams that you could potentially face in the postseason, what's it look like? Has not looked good for the Lakers. And by the way, this could be a team that could come out of the East like the Boston Celtics. It could be the Orlando Magic, who beat you at home. It could be, go down the list of how many, I don't even really remember the last kind of signature win that you could say the Lakers had, maybe against Philadelphia, who's not even a team that I think a lot of people are taking serious in the Eastern Conference. So it's been a while since the Lakers have had a signature win. Thursday night, 7 p.m., Lakers at the Nuggets. Here's your game. And they get it again on Sunday when they take on the Knicks, on Tuesday when they take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Then they got Houston for 2 games in a row, I think, after Chicago. We're going to really, really start seeing what the Lakers are all about. And I think Thursday is going to be a fun game. So here's where we are. Let me show everybody real quick. We can look at it together. We'll hold hands. We'll sing Kumbaya, the whole thing, guys. We'll do everything here. We'll do it together. Let me share my screen here of what tonight's win did to set up Thursday's game. So Lakers obviously win 3 in a row. Handle business, like I said, against teams they're supposed to handle. And let me show everybody where we are here in the standings. So when the Lakers get ready for Denver on Thursday, here's the Denver Nuggets, 38-24. Here's the Lakers, 37-24. Lakers beat Denver on Thursday. They're 5th in the Western Conference. They lose, a little bit of separation. Big game. Looking at Denver here real quick, just so we all look and see some of their injuries and everything else. Let's see. Cameron Johnson didn't play in Monday's game, yesterday's game. Spencer Jones also didn't play. Peyton Watson's been out, so Peyton Watson's not going to be playing that game. We know Aaron Gordon's out. So they'll have some questionable players, will be interesting, but they obviously got enough talent. They got the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic. And, obviously we'll find out about the Lakers, a little bit more about the Lakers when they take on Denver. They don't have another game. Nope. They beat Utah yesterday, so they don't have another game until Thursday. It's going to be a fun game. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm sure a lot of Laker fans are. You should, because now's the time where you can really start looking at some of the competition there and asking yourself, well, it does not matter who the Lakers have been beating. A lot of teams below 500, it might look good in the standings. It might tell you, I think, a false story. They could be 13 games over 500. They could be 6th in the Western Conference and a couple games out of the number 3 spot. But the reality is, how do you do versus playoff teams and they don't do well? And the only way they could change that narrative and build some momentum and try to get, people like me or some of these national networks, the only way they could get people to really talk about the Lakers differently is if all of a sudden they're like, well, interesting. They played 5 teams over 500. They won 4 of those last 5 games. They went on a stretch where they blew out New York at home. Denver, they lost, but it was close. But then they blew out Minnesota and Houston. That's the only way the narrative is going to change on the Lakers, is if they put themselves in a position where obviously they start beating good teams, because that's the only narrative that really matters up to this point. Okay, let's start looking at everybody's comments. We'll look at more of them. Before I do so, let's give a shout out to another one of our partners, Harris Resort SoCal. staycation, you're looking for somewhere to go, you want to be smart about it. I don't want to book a flight and then have to pay round trip tickets and then leave my car at the airport. I got to pay for that. Go rent a car. I'm paying X amount of dollars a day. Go get a hotel somewhere before you even land in the spot that you're going to go to. You're already down X amount of dollars. Why don't you just get in your car and go to Harris Resort SoCal? It's 1 to 2 hours from wherever you are in Southern California, San Diego, Orange County, Los Angeles. It's a beautiful drive, by the way. Once you get off the freeway, off the 15, it's just basically mountains. It's I always say this, and I'm not kidding here because I always get roped into this stuff because it's the best stuff. How about when you go to some of these areas and some of these places, you know you're in good spots when they're selling oranges and avocados and fresh honey and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is where I want to be. Harris Resort SoCal is beautiful. Over 1,000 luxurious rooms. Use the code. We have a link here in the description of this video. There is a link on my YouTube. If you go there, use that link when you do book, you get 20% off. There are some restrictions that apply, but it's a phenomenal place. And trust me, you'll love it. And they're a proud partner of the show. We're going to do a post-game show from there, and I'm going to be pumping the living hell out of it as we get closer to April 2nd when Lakers play the Thunder, because that's going to be the first time I'm really asking Laker fans to come out. Let's watch the game together and then do a post-game show together as well. Shout out to Harris Resort SoCal. All right, let's take a look at some of the comments, and then we'll call it a day. Let's see what we have here. Will we be able to keep Kennard next season? I did a video this morning. Did a video this morning when I was doing my show, and I was giving Luke Kennard a lot of love. And I was also giving Rob Pelinka a lot of love because I thought it was such a great pickup. They didn't really give up anything. They got rid of a player that did nothing for 2.5 years in Gabe Vincent. How nice has Luke Kennard been? Will they be able to keep him next season? You obviously have to pay him. So, certainly Luke Kennard is he's kind of done his job to try to make a case for the Lakers, and then it's going to be a matter. By the way, if I'm another team out there and I'm seeing the way Luke Kennard's performing, I'm also trying to offer Luke Kennard a contract. He's a nice player. He's not just a shooter either. I think he's done a really, really good job of putting the ball on the floor, making the right pass. The only thing people don't like about Luke Kennard is he doesn't shoot enough. I mean, what a great compliment on that. Lakers need home court advantage badly. I'm with you on that. If they play a Houston team, they're gonna need home court to win that round. If they play Minnesota, Minnesota's not. I don't really know what to make of Minnesota, to be honest with you. I can't really tell with Minnesota, but I know last year they played the Lakers like it was nothing, right? So I think that has something to do with it as well. It's like you sit back and it's tough to say, well, I think Lakers are going to hang with Minnesota based off of what? They didn't do it last season. And DeAndre Ayton obviously is not the answer. Jackson Hayes, give him, by the way, I don't think, I'm going to say this again. I don't think DeAndre Ayton was awful tonight. I don't. What did Ayton end up with? Was it 13-8 or 12-8, something like that? What did he end up with? 13-8, couple of block shots. Now he's a -7 on the plus minus, so that obviously is not great. But I'm with you on the Lakers do need home court, and I just went on a little bit of a tangent. Sliwa AR needs reps with the second team off the bench as the ball handler. I've been saying that. I do think that's the right thing to do. And I do think that some of these other players that are starting to struggle a little bit, like Rui Hachimura, I think there's a little bit to that it helps everybody out if he does come off the bench. Let's get some more here. Also lose to teams under 500. That has happened before. Jamal Murray became prime MJ versus the Lakers. Watch. But Jamal Murray does have that clutch gene in him. He's definitely definitely one of those players that likes the big moments and likes big shots, and maybe he likes it even more with when they're playing the Lakers. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Let's get one more in here, and I think we're going to call it a day. Lakers won against teams above 500 last year and still lost in the first round. So beating 500 teams in the regular season is no indication that they will advance further in the playoffs. You're not wrong there, but here's the problem. They're not beating teams over 500 in the regular season. So it certainly wouldn't give anyone an indication that all of a sudden they could just turn it on in the playoffs. They got good individual players, but I think there's, obviously a lot of holes in this team, inconsistencies with the team, lineups that just don't seem like they naturally fit. So obviously we'll see what eventually happens, but it hasn't been. They've had enough games where it really hasn't been pretty, and certainly hasn't been pretty um, with teams that are playing above 500. All right, everybody. I think that's all we got for tonight. So thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the post-game show. Lakers over the Pelicans, 110 to 101. Just a quick reminder, tomorrow back on at 8 a.m. So we're on Monday through Friday right here on YouTube on my channel. We will be using some of AM 570's social platforms as we've partnered together on some of this Lakers content. So feel free to join me however you guys do, but I'm back on tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Lakers have won 3 games in a row. They win over the Pelicans 110 to 101. They go on a 24-7 run to end the game and get a much needed victory that if it didn't happen, obviously it would have been a little bit of doomsday here. Next game is against the Denver Nuggets. We'll be doing a post-game show for that. But until then, back on tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Thank you, everybody.